Well, ho
Hello, everyone.
ho. Welcome back.
Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. New
Which
setup.
podcast, sorry?
The Fika Business and Brunch podcast.
No, it's the Fika Brunch and Business
I
podcast.
was just trying to catch you up.
Fumbled the bag.
Not at all.
That's how long it's been
Yeah.
since we've done this. Can't
Yes.
even remember the name of our own podcast.
We've been working on a new setup. It might not look that different.
That's not the only thing we've been working on. That's not the only thing.
That is the only thing we've been doing. And it has taken that long, yes.
To be fair, it actually has.
But I feel like everything is quite clean now. It's quite integrated. I feel like I know what I'm doing with all the technical elements. I'm sure there's still going to be a few things to figure out. But all in all,
Evo's taking all the credit here, and I'm the one who set everything
Tia
up.
did cook teriyaki salmon.
You're going to need to provide a bit more context than that.
Oh, did they not know the teriyaki salmon story?
No.
Oh, I thought, okay. Yeah, so when I was doing all of this setup, which is more complex than you see it on camera and you think,
It's very
wow,
complex.
this looks
It's
really
so beyond my pay grade.
Yeah,
it's not even funny.
Tia resorted to cooking teriyaki salmon, which I appreciated, to be fair, because I wouldn't want you to help me with this because you would just annoy me. And it was really good teriyaki salmon. So
I feel like I know you well enough to know that the way to keep you calm, cool, and collected in stressful situations, such as when you want to send one of these microphones through my window, is just to keep you fed and entertained, and not a lot else.
I'm like a child or a hungry girlfriend.
It's very stereotypical of you. Terrible.
Is what it is.
Anyways, should we tell the fans what we've been up to for the last couple of months? And why, yet again, we went AWOL.
Man's busy.
Man is busy. Yeah.
What have we been doing?
Well, what have we been doing? That is a great question. We've been working a lot.
When did we do the last podcast? Is it before or after we opened Fika Wolf?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it was before. Because I think the last one that we did was with Laura and Caitlin.
It was. Was that before Fika Wolf?
I think so.
Oh, it really has been a long time. To be fair, we did have a fairly long December. Not
compared to other people.
It's 31 days of December.
We uniquely.
For everyone else that doesn't know, December was much longer for us than it was for everyone else. What I meant to say was we had quite a busy December.
We did have a very busy December.
Because Christmas, and then we opened Warfox tail end of November. So
yes,
there was a lot going on.
Yeah, and December time around the cafes is just chaos. Yeah. Carnage and chaos is how I would describe it. Amazing. Lots of fun, but not sustainable for everyone's mental well-being and sanity. But good fun.
Yeah.
But it didn't leave a lot of time for much else.
For sitting down. And it's also because we had to figure out all the things with
all the technical
things. And I feel like I was putting that off for a long time. It would take me ages. But we're here now.
We're here now. What else have we been doing? We've been... I just feel like the only way to say what we've been doing is we've just been working. Like...
Yeah, we can give a little bit more detail.
We can give a little bit more detail. Go on.
What have you been working on? Tell the fans.
Oh, we did also go on holiday.
Oh,
which is nice. Yeah, that was nice. So we've been working on... Oh, are we going to divulge? How much are we divulging? We've not discussed this before.
Just...
Okay, well, we're working... I don't need to...
Say nothing.
Well, we're working
on...
Wolfox. So we're working on a baking space up at Wolfox, which is very exciting. We do have a baking space currently, which we've slightly outgrown. We make all our own pastries and everything, as we've discussed before. And yeah, we're kind of reaching a bottleneck with that. And it would be nice for us to do all our own bread and stuff. Yeah. I think the best way I would describe what we've been doing is we've been working to cut out middlemen.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of months. And
I wouldn't even say middlemen, like suppliers.
Yeah, suppliers and figuring out best ways for us to do everything ourselves so that we're more self-sufficient and we're more almost like our roots go a bit deeper. And because we have decided, and saying this kind of makes it like fact, which I don't really want to, but I guess we have, that we're not going to do any more fekas because the three work quite well, you know, and synergy together.
That's the current line of thinking.
The current line of thinking. But we still want to grow, and the way for us to grow is kind of with depth rather than width.
Yeah. I think it makes our brand more unique.
Yeah.
If people came in and had an almond croissant, but it was made by someone else, and they could go to the cafe 3 doors down and have the same almond croissant.
Yeah.
That's supplied by the same person.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you that much uniqueness.
No.
Whereas what we're trying to do is just make as unique a place as possible.
Yeah. Let me set the scene. You come in to Fika.
Yeah.
You order yourself a oat flat white, and we use beans that we've roasted ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Hint, hint.
Wild.
And then you order an almond croissant, which we have made ourselves from start to finish. And then you order Fika Zabo, and the sourdough.
Avocados are grown in our back garden.
The climate at Woolfox is perfect for avocados. No, but the sourdough is grown by us. Grown by us?
Hopefully not.
The sourdough is baked by us. And then from start to finish, the whole process just becomes like ingrained Fika, you know, to the core. So that's what we've been working on to do with Fika. We've also been working on some other things, which I think we shouldn't divulge yet, because they're very initial.
Top secret.
Top secret. But we have been working on other things. So it's all quite exciting. Have we been working on anything else that we can divulge? I feel like I've missed what have we been doing over the last 2 months. Like I've just skipped over many, many weeks.
Well, there's been a lot of operational things, hiring for Woolfox. You know, Woolfox steadily getting busier, us needing more staff there.
Yeah.
And then we've had hiring for the cafes as well. I feel like the whole there was a long period of time where hiring was very difficult. I feel like it's slowly starting to get easier.
Yeah,
I feel like
I
people
agree.
are starting to settle in.
Yeah.
I think there was a long period after COVID where everyone was during and after, where everyone was very unsettled.
Yeah.
I feel like it's starting to settle down a little bit more. That's just my initial thought.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of operational stuff that we've been doing, which is actually like to do with running the cafes.
Yeah. We've also done evening stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We've relaunched that. That's actually a big one.
Yeah.
Because this time round, like we were saying the other day, we spent a lot more time thinking about how we're going to do that, how we're going to execute it perfectly. And it wasn't perfect by any means, our first one, but it took a lot more time and thought and effort than when we did them here.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So when we did our evenings here, we felt like there was something a little bit missing. Yeah. Whether it was the atmosphere of the space, the vibe of it. We generally got the impression that people were after a lot more food. So we thought it would be, we'll open for the evenings, do some cocktails, and then most people would just come in for cocktails and drinks and maybe have a little side to eat. Yeah. We found the opposite. Like people were coming in
specifically for the food.
And
the food wasn't really something that we focused on with the menu.
Yeah.
The menu was drinks focused. Quite simple. Yeah, exactly. And we also thought it would be people's kind of, not go-to, but like be a place where people maybe go to after work, like just for a chill couple of drinks, or just come in like before they go for dinner, or like we didn't really see it as becoming like a destination for the evening kind of thing. Yeah. And then it transpired that that's more of what people wanted. So
I think there's a good lesson in that for any entrepreneur. Yeah. And the lesson is
pivot. I love the term pivot.
Do you?
I think pivot has become my term in the last 2 months, 2 to 3 months.
That she knows what pivot means.
That is so offensive to my IQ.
No, it
doesn't know what pivot means. I used to play netball.
That's true. Yeah, but I know that you know what the word pivot means, but the fact that you've used it in an entrepreneurial context is what I'm very impressed with.
So rude.
It's not rude.
Yeah, no, I think we learned to pivot there. We were like, okay, this isn't working. Let's not completely give up and go, oh, it didn't work, you know, sack it off. We went, okay, right, let's think about it. We had a month off. We went on holiday, not for a month, for a week, but
we had a month off the evenings.
We had a month off the evenings, and we used our time away and our time of not doing that to think about how we were going to do it properly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like when we did it, we were like, let's nail it. And we did nail it. More so, especially our chef, Leo, absolutely nailed it.
Smashed it, Leo. Well, hope you're listening.
Yeah. Peace.
And also everyone else that worked that night.
Yeah. Nailed it.
It was a tough shift.
Tough shift.
I think everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think so. So that's going to be a monthly thing. Yeah, including Evo.
I was red most of the time.
That's breaking a sweat. Hardest workout you've done. So that has definitely taken some time. Loving that. 10 out of 10 vibes. Yeah. And then the rest of the stuff.
About anyone that's listening that would like to get involved in this speaking, they want to turn up, how do they do that?
I would say go to our website. Yeah. There is a little
That's what
email.
I've been working on as well.
That is what you've been working on. Yeah. There's a little email badge when you go onto the website, and you can sign up to our mailing list. We don't spam people. Like, we're not going to be like, today we're doing this.
It's worth saying that it's a mailing list specifically for events. Like that. It's not like... It's
not a general knowledge feature. Yeah, it's not that. It is just, it's only a mailing list for future events, and you will only get emailed about future events and booking links and stuff like that. For now. No, just kidding. So yeah, that's if people want to get involved. But I think that's enough. That was smooth, because we're talking about transitioning.
We are. We should talk about what we mean by transitioning.
Yeah, we should. I didn't even think of that. That's terrible. Evo. Yeah, no. Transitioning in a business sense. So anyone who follows our Fika Brunch and Business Instagram, and if you don't, what are you doing? Will have seen our post from a couple of weeks ago, maybe now, or last week. Where
it's quite a good post. I didn't know anything about that, but then you posted
it. You don't have any idea about what's being posted on Instagram.
Right.
So I did a post about a kind of transitionary period that we've been going through, because I feel like we had a couple of months where not a lot happened, where we were kind of like almost, I don't want to say stuck in a rut, because I don't think we were, but we were almost like, okay, what's the next step? And we seemed to like take our foot off the gas a little bit while we figured that out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that felt like a period of, okay, we know we're going to go into something else and step into a different like realm, but currently we're not, but we're also not where we were before.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in this limbo phase. Discuss.
I think the main point for me is limbo phase. There's obvious ways to grow a company, but not all of them are the right way. And we've always talked about not wanting to be a big chain with lots of restaurants and lots of below average offerings. You know, we want to be as good as we possibly can, and I think to do that we need to stay a little bit compact. But having said that, we have grown. And I feel like this transitioning that we're talking about is what you said in the post, transitioning from a kind of small business to a proper, fully formed company. And the definitions are a little bit vague there, because like, what's a small business, what's a company? But in my mind, I see it as that in our case, when we're running a small business, we have control over everything. It's fairly like few staff, but we're overseeing most of what goes on. I think transitioning from that to like let's say, fully formed company is more about kind of relinquishing control in certain areas, knowing that we can't oversee everything, we can't be there all the time, and we kind of have to
step back.
But
it's relinquishing control, making sure that the processes and systems are in place for us to be able to do that.
Exactly.
And really, that's what we've been working on, especially you, over the last couple of months. Like, that's probably the biggest thing, and probably something that most people would underestimate how much there is to figure out with that.
Much work, guys.
No, but there is so much, like, to be able to take a step back and get all the systems in place and make sure everything's sorted so that when you do step back, it doesn't just fall apart, is like a lot of work goes into that.
I think one of the biggest takeaways, one of the biggest learnings for me is how difficult communication actually is.
Yeah.
Like, we're not a huge company, but then sometimes I'll hear things, or I'll see someone like making a drink in a certain way, and I'm like, wait, that's not how we do that. Who's told you that? And then, I saw this person do it.
It's like a trickle.
I'm like, where is this? Where has it started?
Yeah.
So communication is definitely a big one. So we've been trying to work on kind of having
channels.
Yeah, channels, but also like guides as to what you like, almost like training guides of like what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, just so everyone. And also, it's like quite a high turnover staff industry.
Yeah.
So anyone new that starts needs to have a good idea of what they're doing without us being here every day to make sure everyone knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'd say that's been a particular making sure everything's clear, everything's communicated, and everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. So would you say, do you feel like we're in the next realm yet? Or do you think we're about to step out of the transitionary period?
I think so. And again, like the definitions between like small businesses are a bit vague, and I'm not using like some universal definitions. I'm making up my own.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we're about to step out of it. I have a task list on my phone, which you've seen, which is everything that I need to do in terms of like putting in place like processes and procedures. It sounds a bit dull when you say processes and procedures, but basically measures to ensure that the company like knows what it's doing, without like us being there and talking about it every day. So I've got a task list on my phone of all the bunch of things that I need to do, and it's mostly like setting up.
It's very operational stuff.
Setting up certain systems. Like yesterday, I was working with an app that helps you do like kitchen management and make sure it like takes your invoices, make sure you're not spending too much, like that kind of like back end stuff, which keeps things running that you don't necessarily see or want to see. I
feel like we should clarify, because most people will probably think like, well, not most people, but like that is very much your role, I would say, and your big strength in this company is the operations side. And so for people who don't know, Ivo is the CEO of Fika, the COO, CFO. So your kind of operations, finances, basically everything that's not wishy-washy. Everything that's actually to do with running a business is Ivo.
There's a lot of compliments coming from this side of the table today, which is
very unusual.
Very unusual, but good to hear.
No, they're not compliments, but it's more just like factual, because I feel like we're talking about everything that you've been doing over the last couple of months, and I'm like, I've not really been that involved in all of that, because
I like to think of it, and I don't know if I've used this analogy before, but every business has a heart and a brain, and it can't be just brains. I mean, some businesses are like more brains than heart, like if you run an insurance company,
a tech company or something,
whereas some businesses are like more brand focused.
I'd
say I'm one of those. So every business has a heart and a brain, and the heart is your brand, and the brain is your strategy, operations, everything that you need to actually make the business happen and keep it running. And I'd say we fit that's how I see our two
Yeah.
roles. And we overlap a little bit.
Yeah.
But like mainly I think those are our two roles.
Yeah, I agree. So what do you think? Okay, here we go. I'm going to ask my first question because I think it leads quite nicely. How do we do all this without becoming too corporate? Because this is obviously, you know, with these terms of taking us from a small business to a proper company, I think there's a big risk of becoming quite corporate.
Yeah.
And that's where, you know, with standardizing drinks and food and prices and all of this, I think you start to tread quite a fine line.
Yeah, you do.
So
I have some thoughts on that.
Go on.
And they're thoughts that that are just coming to me now because I've not necessarily thought about it.
He didn't know this question was coming.
I did not know. No. Is this one of your two questions?
This is one of my two questions.
So I think there's nothing inherently wrong with being corporate. I don't actually know what that term means, but like everyone has a picture in their mind.
Yeah.
Corporate. For me, there's good corporate and bad corporate. Good corporate is having processes and procedures where they're really needed. So, for example, if someone comes into Fika, orders a green goddess smoothie, and today they get one smoothie, tomorrow they get something completely different.
Yeah.
That is where you need processes and procedures. In a lot of companies I've worked in, I think they start to go too heavy on that. So they start implementing like processes where you don't really need them. And maybe it's naive of me to say, as like a 20-something-year-old walking into a company thinking, oh, you don't really need a process for this. But I think that's the difference between good corporate and bad. In overly corporate, I think everything is about process. Whereas I think process almost needs to be on the back end where nobody else can see it. And it's there to help everyone and not to constrain everyone.
Yeah.
That's one thought. Another thought is like, I think I started to appreciate, like getting to this scale, I started to appreciate a little bit more of like understanding costs and finances a little bit better because admittedly, like we used to do none of that. Like we used to just be like, yes.
What should we charge for that? $12.95?
What should we charge? Yeah. That, here's a card, spend whatever, like it won't be.
Yeah.
Like, it works on a smaller scale, but on the scale that we're getting to, it starts to become, I think you need more processes around finances.
I think we've learned that very quickly. Yeah. This, you okay? Yeah, I think we've learned that very quickly. And I think what's forced us to learn that is because everything has become a lot more expensive, as everyone is fully aware. Yeah. But we've been affected by it just as much, to the point of where it actually really matters what we're charging, what we're spending money on, how much what our food costs are, what our overheads are, what our staff costs are.
Especially in hospitality, which is, like most people know this, it's a very low profit margin industry. Yeah. So if your costs and your spending are even a little bit off,
game over.
It could be the difference between being plus or minus.
It is, but it is, and it's something that I didn't really realise again because I don't really deal with the financial side, nor is it like my forte. I always say I was never that good at maths, but I actually was. But like I don't enjoy it at all. Yeah. Not interested. But in the last like week or two, I've taken a bit more of an interest just because I'm like, actually, this is quite good for me to know. And even I didn't fully appreciate like how 1% can throw off something so hugely and make such a big difference to your margin.
Yeah.
Which
and you could be the busiest cafe, restaurant, whatever in town, and if your costing just a little bit wrong, then
there's no point.
Yeah, it's not looking good, bro.
Okay.
So I think, but then again, going back to the corporate question, I've worked in companies where like every single transaction needs to be approved, and then there's times when like I've wanted to spend like £4.95. And it's got to go through like a chain of 14 people to get approved. And I'm like, this is just a waste.
By the time it's coming back, it's 2 weeks later. You're like, I'll just pay for it on my.
It's 2 weeks later, and the amount of time these people have spent reviewing and approving it, like if you calculate hours they pay per hour, it's probably cost them like £4,000 just to approve me buying this item. It's £4.95.
Yeah.
So again, like
there's a bit of a balance to strike with it.
There's a balance to strike, and then. What else? What else is the difference between becoming too corporate? Yeah, I think being overly focused on finances as opposed to brand, and I think as well, like trying to squeeze out every single like bit of like a profit where you can, rather than doing stuff that are not necessarily profitable in the short term, but are good for your brand, and good for the long term.
Yeah, so this is what I was going to say as well. I think for me, where companies and brands become too corporate is when the soul goes out of it.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to become really corporate and more profitable, we could hire a load of younger people, all on minimum wage, and have everyone on 0 hours contracts and
not really worry about like. What
turnover,
feels like talking, like coming in and talking to just get
and not care about staff turnover, like everyone leave.
Just get everything that's like low quality, but low cost. Just
and it just become like more about like pumping stuff out, volume. People not really getting a personal interaction, not really building like any kind of rapport, both between like colleagues and customers, any of that. Whereas I feel like the companies that do it well, they keep the soul and also focus on the other stuff. So again, I think your analogy of the heart and the brains is quite good because there's, again, a bit of that going on here. And I think companies can become too much about the brains and there's no heart, which works for some companies, definitely, in some sectors, absolutely. But I think with something like what we're trying to do, if it was all brains and no heart, it would just be Costa or Nero. Wouldn't be
Costa has a soul.
Costa does not have a soul.
Pending lawsuit.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah. Okay.
Good take.
Cool.
Thanks for that question.
You're welcome. Do you want to ask one?
Let us know in the comments what you think.
Okay.
I don't know what comments were, but
where are these comments then?
Call us.
This is my personal number.
No, you're not.
Okay.
What else do you want to talk about today? Do you want to talk about, you've got yourself a little list here of talking points. Do you want to talk about something that...
Sorry about that. Yeah, I have. Yeah. Well, one of the topics we've discussed before, and it kind of, I guess it links a little bit to what we were talking about, but also kind of not. But I want to go, well, this was actually your idea. We want to go a bit in a different direction with it.
Yeah.
Success, as you guys said last time. So we've talked about this before, but we've talked about it more from like an emotional standpoint of, you know, who defines who's successful and who's not, and what defines what is defined as success, etc., etc. So, you know, if you've not listened to that podcast, that episode, go back, refresh your memory. But today, well, this was your idea.
I have a few things I want to say on it.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, the best way I can think to explain it, and this has been something that's, I wouldn't go as far as say it's like frustrating, but it's like that type of feeling to me at the moment. I don't know if you feel the same. Let us know in the comments.
Or give me a call.
We'll discuss it. I want to talk about like a little bit of, I'm not sure the stigma around success is the right way to put it, but I'll explain what I mean.
Yeah.
If you're a really good basketball player, and you work really, really hard and you become the best in the world at basketball, you're generally and you're a good person and you don't do a bunch of stupid things, you're generally quite admired by most people. There's always going to be the haters.
Yeah.
but you're generally quite admired for like being hardworking. He's worked where he's got to. He's made it.
Yeah.
I don't think the same is necessarily true for entrepreneurship.
No.
It's true to some extent. I do think there are people out there that look up to people that are successful, that have built good companies, that have achieved a level of wealth. But I don't think it's universally true. And I think almost with some things, like the further up you get, the more, almost like the more resented you become.
Yeah.
And the more people start to think like, you know, he's only managed to do that because he like managed to screw over like this person or something like that. So yeah, so it's hard to go. I kind of feel like I think my thing is entrepreneurship / business, whatever you want to call it. But it's hard, but you also kind of have to be quite careful. If I was training to be a good basketball player, I know I could go pretty hard at it. Could be in the gym every day, like be shooting hoops every day, doing like different like conditioning drills, like practicing. Like you could go full on at it. You know what you have to do.
Yeah.
I think with entrepreneurship, the thing that I'm finding difficult is actually having to be a little bit careful and making sure everything is done like absolutely right. So that there doesn't come a point in future where I have been successful, which I think I will be, and I think we will be, where someone turns around and says, he's only done that because he's only managed to get to that level because of this or that.
Is that because, okay, I've got a couple of thoughts. Is that because becoming a good basketball player is so much more of a measurable thing? Like it's a lot easier to quantify and measure. You either are a good basketball player or you're not. Whereas,
you could say the most successful. Well, it depends how you define being a successful businessman.
No, back to this.
Yeah, but you could define it by money. Say if you've built
but I don't think I feel like that's just one, because that's wealth. That's not success. I think that's just one measure.
But we're talking about being successful in business. I think the overall success / valuation of your company is a measure of how successful a businessman you are.
Yeah.
I mean, what else do you think?
I also, well, what I was going to say is I also think the path to becoming a good basketball player is more straightforward and more, not like there are clearer processes, but if you sit back and relax and put your feet up, you're not going to become a good basketball player.
But you will be a great entrepreneur.
No, but whereas, like, you know, if you hit the gym every day, you hit the court every day, challenge yourself, get a really good trainer. I don't know.
You have a destination.
I don't have any basketball player friends, so I don't know what it takes.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's, a clearer path to take.
There's a clear path.
Exactly. Whereas I think with entrepreneurship, there isn't. There's so many different paths. There's so many different ways you can get.
There's no clear destination.
And there is no clear destination. And if your goal of success is wealth, there are many ways to get there. Easy, hard, some exploitative, is that the word?
Yeah.
Some, more of a like social enterprise or charitable enterprise. So I think that's where the grey areas and like the nuances come in. Personally,
yeah, I think you're right. I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
By the way, but it's just it's difficult when you see people that you think have done it well and have done it the right way.
Yeah.
Still being criticised.
This comes on to my next point. Is that because the pool is just bigger of people that follow them and watch what they're doing? When you're yeah, exactly. When you're small scale, own 3 cafes in and around Stamford, Rutland. Don't know who. Not referring to anyone in particular, but there's not that many people watching what you do. Like you could, and I'm not saying you ever would, but you could go and like kick a cat outside, and no one will see it. Know that you've done that.
Why you chose that? No cats will harm me making this video.
Absolutely not. Love animals. No, but do you know what I mean? Whereas if you're like, and if you're Elon Musk and you go and kick a cat, there's someone watching you, and that's going to be on the internet tomorrow.
Yeah. So you've got a much smaller margin for error.
Smaller margin for error, and I think the more people that are watching you, the more people there are going to be who don't approve of what you're doing, or don't agree with what you're doing, or don't think you're doing it in the right way.
But by volume.
By volume, yeah, exactly. Because if you have 10 people watching what you're doing, and one person is like, "This guy's a waste man, hate what he's doing, hate everything he stands for," great, that's one person. But if you have 1,000 people watching you, and even just 10, like that's 9 more than one person. Even just 10 are going, "This guy's a waste man." And that can start a bit of a movement as well. And like you said, those voices can become a lot louder, because often the people that I think also don't disapprove of what you're doing, or either are neutral or like what you're doing, but aren't so invested in you. They will kind of just sit back and watch you and enjoy it, but not be that vocal about it.
Yeah.
So they their voices get lost a little bit. So I think there's also a bit of that at play.
Yeah.
As to why.
Do you think I just shouldn't worry about it?
I think it's like with everything.
To be successful.
I think so, because I think with everything in life, no matter, like, when scale gets involved, there's always going to be people who don't approve of what you're doing, people who, like, not haters, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. I'm just trying to figure out if the camera's still recording. It's not looking good, bro. Pop-ups allowed.
No pop-ups allowed.
Okay, let's get this back. Really cool. So yeah, getting back to the topic. I mean, whatever. There are times, and I also think like the world goes through fluctuations. Like there's times when entrepreneurs, and I think that was the case probably not that long ago, where like everyone was trying to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs were really admired. And I almost think like when times get a little bit tougher, like they have been, that's probably one of the professions, if you can call it a profession, that starts to suffer a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, if you've done well and all of a sudden everyone's not doing so well.
Yeah.
I was like,
fuck this guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do think, like I was saying, I think with everything in life, you just have to do your best, and in the way that you best see fit, that doesn't harm other people. And, especially like intentionally, because again, like we could, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too much, but I think in some way, some of what we do in life is always going to harm someone down the line. I'm just going to give a very easy example.
Just open a can of worms.
Yeah, and I don't want to, but I'm going to give an easy example.
Yeah.
Every time you buy an item of clothing, it's more than likely that some child has suffered to make that item of clothing over in some poor country, and I'm not saying that's right, but we all contribute to it. Yeah. Well, most of us do, and there's always, every time you like drink out of a plastic cup, you're contributing to something negative in the world. So there's always, everything you do is, not everything, but a lot of the things you do will have some positive impact and some negative impact. And I guess it's like a balancing act of choosing things that have more of a positive impact. And the rest is kind of collateral damage.
The world isn't ideal, no. Perfect. So the best you can do, guys, is leave it in a better state than you found it.
Exactly. I think that's what we should all strive for.
There's also the point to say, like, if we're running this company, we might not do it perfectly.
Yeah.
And there might be plenty of things that go wrong. There might be plenty of people that are unhappy with what we do.
Yeah.
But there's also someone out there that's a lot worse.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that in a way of like, in a way to be like, well, as long as we're not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm saying that to say that there's someone that probably wants to take our position.
Yeah.
That would be where that situation would be worse for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So as long as we can do our best.
It's all about intention. I think everything's about intention. And if you have good intentions and you make a mistake along the way, that is a bit of a fuck up.
Yeah.
If your intention was good. Not that it like makes it okay. But if your intention was good and then you do something to fix it, then I think like that's as much as you can do without being a perfect person, because no one's going to be a perfect person or perfect entrepreneur or perfect leader or perfect boss. Like, it's never going to happen.
Never going to happen. And sometimes you're torn between a situation where something's good for someone and something's good for someone else, and you've got to make the decision. And at the end of the day, someone's going to be unhappy. But
exactly.
Searching for a net positive.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
There you go.
Very good. This leads on quite nicely to my next question.
You've asked all your questions.
I know. Well, I don't know if you want to chip in with yours at any point. Feel free.
I will do. I'll ask. Go on. You ask your question.
Well, do you think there is a way in this world, in this day and age, to be rich and powerful without having exploited someone along the way? Because I think this is a tricky one. And you don't have to answer it in like a yes or no way.
Yes.
I do think it's a tricky one.
Yeah.
And also, I guess it's defined by...
What do you mean by exploit?
Exploit, yeah. I don't mean like kill. Like,
let's think about it in real terms.
Yeah.
If you run a company, and let's say you run a company that makes X amount of money and X amount of profit, and you pay everyone, let's say £10, or that you pay all your staff £10, and then another person comes along, runs the company more efficiently because they've got a better know-how, more experience. I don't know, they know how to position staff a little bit better, and they run the company more of it, or they use like tech and tools that help them. They run the company more efficiently. As a result, their costs are lower, so they make more profit. But they pay everyone $10.50, but they've made more profit, and they're going to build a bigger company. Some might say, you made more profit. You're exploiting your workers. You should pay them more. But that company B, is paying workers more than company A because they're a more efficient company.
Yeah.
But some people might still see that as exploitation.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it definitely depends on your definition of what it means to exploit someone.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. It kind of ties into what we were talking about. It's just about trying to do your best, trying to be as fair as possible, and trying to be better and more fair than the next person that comes along.
Yeah.
And the way that I think about everyone at Fika is for the people that I'm really interested in having around, which for the moment is everyone. It is in my best interest to keep them around, and therefore it is in my best interest to make sure that they
want to be around and have an environment,
and that there's nowhere else where they can get a better deal. So
it's
in my interest to try and make whatever job they're doing as good a deal as possible, and as good an offer as possible. So that the next person down the line of the cafe doesn't come and steal them from you.
Yeah, I like it. Good answer.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on that question?
I think much the same, really. I do think it's a very tricky one to answer. And I think it depends on scale and your definition of exploiting. Again, like I said before, I think it just comes down to intention, and I'm very against, trampling over anyone and everyone to get to where you want to be. But I do also think that there is, like, this is your life and it's your life to live. And many of the people that you wouldn't consider trampling over and getting out of your way would do that to you in a heartbeat. So I think there is a bit of a balancing act of, like you say, if it's people you care about and people you value and people you want around, that's one thing. But if it's someone who, I don't know, I'm going to get cancelled here. But if it's someone...
Get on.
I'm trying to say this in the most politically correct way. No, I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I think you have to, at the end of the day, if you have a goal and somewhere you want to be, you have to do what you can to get there.
Yeah.
And if that means
you just have to be careful.
beating someone else to it and doing a better job than them, then great. But I don't think that's a bad thing to do a better job than the next best person.
Competition.
It is.
Competition.
It is. Otherwise, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
If we're all just sat here, like, being best friends. But I think as long as you're not harming someone, like, intentionally hurting someone.
And I think you have to separate, like, business and personal to an extent.
Yeah.
So if, like, the person 3 cafes down is your friend, you have to be able to go in and say, okay, we're going to compete because we're 2 cafes in the same area, and one of us will do better than the other, but we're not going to let that affect our friendship. Which doesn't always work.
I think
doesn't always work. But,
the sportsmanship is a good,
it is
a really good, it is a sport. And I think looking at a business the same way as you would a sport, and looking at the competition between businesses in the same way that you would competitive spirit within a sport is a good way to look at it.
Absolutely. I've been really into, like, UFC. And boxing, you know, like, I don't know, I've just got obsessed with it recently, but a lot of the time you'll see 2 people that hate each other, like, go at each other for like 25 minutes, 5 rounds, whatever, beat each other up, and at the end of the fight they'll shake hands and say, well,
boom, job done.
One of them's won, one of them's lost. But there's that sportsmanship, and I don't think that's too dissimilar in business.
No.
And then the other point I want to attach to that is when we talk about competitive instinct.
Yeah.
I always try my best to channel that competitive instinct upwards towards people that I think are actually exploiting other people. So if I'm company figure, and I look next door and I see Costa, and I think, wow, like, they're really, like, they're a much bigger company than us, but, like, I feel like working there isn't actually that great. I try and channel my competitive instinct against people like that, rather than trying to, like, trample Sally's business, who's like just about trying to, like, scrape by. I'm not, like, I'm not gonna try and compete with someone who I'm going to say, like, isn't on our level, but you know what I mean. Not.
No one else knows what I mean.
I'm not going to try and trample over someone.
Who's trying their best, and who's and who's
if anything, I'd be interested in helping them. If they wanted to.
Wow, it's so charitable.
I'm such But I always try and channel my competitive instinct upwards towards
the big bad guys.
Where I think I can actually make a difference, rather than trying to stop everyone from doing their thing.
Wow. So between us, we're going to change the world.
We're going to change the world. We're so inspiring. Everyone be inspired.
Okay, I think we should wrap up with your 2 questions.
Yeah, so I've got 2 questions for Tia.
Oh God, I'm so bad on the spot.
What do you think about communism? No, that's not a question. Let us know in the comments.
Or give me a ring.
Okay, first question's a little bit more personal.
Oh God.
And then the second question, I think, is actually... Oh no, it's kind of different to what we talked about. So let's see where we go with it. So first question, how do you feel now based on how you thought you would feel at this stage and at this level of success in your life. If you think back to yourself 5 years ago, we pictured this moment at some point.
Yeah.
We did, even as long as 5 years ago. I remember us sitting in a cafe. What was the name of that cafe in Great Bowden?
Oh, Bowden Stores.
Bowden Stores.
Shout out
to
Bowden Stores.
Actually, yeah, pretty decent cafe.
Yeah.
Not going to try and trample you over. I won't. Right. You're safe for now. Some jokes. I remember us sitting in Bowden Stores upstairs on that thing, having a breakfast and talking about
my
we're
God.
Gonna go to a cafe. And I said, you need to save some money. And you said, that was my overdraft, like, deal with it. But we managed to get there. Yeah, basically the same conversation.
Sorry, everyone. Ignore that. Okay, that is a great question. I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer it in a personal way, and I'm going to answer it in a business way.
Yeah.
We'll go personal first.
Yeah.
I think I have reached a deep level of contentment in my life.
Everyone be inspired.
Everyone be inspired. And I think a lot of that comes from Fika and from the work that we do. And yeah. So with this level of success, and we've discussed this before about whether we're successful or not, but I would say, yeah, love it. Feel great.
Yeah.
I don't really...
Does it feel any different to how you thought it would?
It feels a lot less... I don't want to use the word... I don't know. I don't sit there and think about it, really.
It's almost like it's underwhelming.
Yeah, but not in a negative way.
Yeah. Not
in a like, oh, it's not really everything I thought it would be. More like, okay, this is great, but let's do more.
Yeah.
Okay, we've reached a level. Let's go to the next level.
You're more or less still the same person.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't say it's changed my life.
Yeah.
And again, I don't mean that in a negative way. Like, I don't mean, because it has changed my life. Like, it has. I did not feel this level of contentment 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it has changed my life, but it's not changed my life in like a...
It's not as drastic as you thought it would.
No, and it's not as... I don't feel as... I guess, like, dependent on it. As like, if it was all to be stripped away from me tomorrow, I think I'd be all right. And I think I'd be all right because... We won't try that. But I think I'd be all right because I know we can do it again.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'd be like, okay, it's going to take a while, but let's go again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give it another go. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really shit answer to that question. But
I would say the same for me, by the way. I would say it's still, as you, like, you put it in a very good way when I said you were in your overdraft and you said nothing's changed. It's basically, yeah, it is. I think you have an idea in your mind of how you think it will be. And it's usually probably a slightly exaggerated version of how it actually is.
But I also think, and I don't want that to strip away from the things that we can do now and like the opportunities that we have based on, compared to what we did 5 years ago, because we do have a lot more opportunities now, and we do, we can live our lives differently. Yeah. And
I think that's the most exciting part for me is not necessarily like I've had this idea, I've got to this point, and now I'm like just living the high life every single day. I think the most exciting part for me is more the opportunities that I have from here, and the idea of like what I could do and the kind of people that I could work
and it's
with.
almost like I've had this idea, I've done it. Let me now have a bigger idea. Let me try and do that. Yeah. And then let me get a bigger idea after that, and then let me try and do that. Yeah. It's almost like
once you climb the mountain, you realise there's bigger mountains.
Yeah, exactly. So it's great. I love my life. I just 10 out of 10 vibes, but there's more. And I feel like that's a good, that's a very good yin and yang to it.
And I don't think you mean more in like there's more in a like I'm not grateful kind of way.
No,
there's more in a opportunity excitement.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
Nice. Do you want the next question?
Go for it.
This one is more of like a general, rather than a personal one. Can anyone be successful, or does the world just favour some people over others?
No, the world does not favour some people. No. And let me not do a Molly May.
Get cancelled.
No, the world definitely, like, some people have been born into awful, terrible positions in life.
Yeah.
And, like, there are terrible things that go on in the world. And you can't help but feel anything but just sadness for people who don't get the same upbringing, opportunity, etc., as we did. So that aside, like the obvious huge gaps in society and poverty and everything like that aside, if we're talking about, say, if we were to get 10 females aged 24, similar background to me, I think...
How many hours in a day do you have?
No, I really no, I really want to highlight that. So, to answer your question, some people do get favoured. Like, they're definitely by the way the world. Yeah, exactly. There's absolutely definitely some privilege.
Yeah,
a lot of privilege. For some people, and for some people, they get the wrong. What's the saying?
End of the stick?
No.
I'm not sure I understand.
You know what I'm trying to say. They draw the short straw, unfortunately, and it's completely out of their control. But for people with similar upbringings, in the same kind of area, same background, all of that, if you get a pool of people, I think everyone can be the same level of successful. And then I think, I think beyond that, it's all a mind game.
Wild.
It is all.
I'm actually going to disagree with you.
Are you?
Because I'm going to scientifically bring out some research to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with you on an opinion.
Okay, but can I just give an example?
Go on.
Where you were a year ago versus where you are now, would you not say you've leveled up? And you've leveled up through working on yourself, through discipline, through learning, through...
But is there also an element of talent?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
You're not talented.
You're just a shit. No, I don't think so, because I don't think I'm talented at anything.
Yeah, but...
I was having this conversation with someone else the other day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What part does talent play into the equation? I think that's a big thing about success in business, is that talent is not immediately visible. I think that's a big part of it. I think of it, to relate it back to sport. If I do everything right in the gym, and I go to the gym, follow the perfect workout, eat the perfect meals that I'm supposed to eat, I'm not going to look like Arnold. I'm not going to look like Arnold used to look like when he won the Mr. Olympians. I'm not going to look like that. And I think it's because my genetics play a part of it.
Do you think?
100%. 100%. I could, if I did all those things, I would look very good. But I would never be at that level. And again, like, I'm not going to be better than, I don't know, LeBron James at basketball.
You never know. What would David Goggins say?
I'll give it a go. Yeah, I think...
You're too much of a short king for that.
I'm 6'2", to be fair. Anyone watching? I do think talent and genetics play a part in it. And again, that's not to say, like, if I were to go to the gym every day and eat all the right things and follow the right routine and get the right amount of rest, I would look better than 99.9% of the population, because I put all that work in. But I would never be at the level of if I did basketball, I might be better than 50% of the population, because I'm really bad at basketball, naturally, genetically. But yeah, I do think that is less obvious in business, and I think, but I do think it plays a significant part. I think certain people are just wired a certain way that that does help, and that's again. But again, everyone can like have a greater level of success than they currently do by working on it. But
I do think everyone can get to a certain level of like almost like the top 80%. Yeah. I think the bottom 80%. I think
the top 20%.
No, I'm trying to say the rest. So everyone can be in that, or like in between the 85 and the 75 and 80%.
I think we're
and then it's more. I guess what you're saying, I think, plays more into the top 20%. But I think everyone can be. But I think everyone can reach that level, and then beyond that, then it's like, okay, now this is pure talent, purely the way your brain is wired, whether you get it or you don't.
But I do think there are plenty of exceptionally talented people, not just in business, but in all realms of life, whether that be in making content, whether that be in music, whether that be in sport, that don't do anything about it. And I think that's where I'm coming from, is that even I do think everyone, if they worked on their talents, could be at a higher position or a better position than they are now.
Yeah.
But not necessarily everyone is talented at exactly the same thing. I do think everyone has something for it.
Yeah. There we go. Balanced answer.
Everyone be inspired.
I think that's a good note to leave it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's summarise what we've talked about today. I think this has been a good comeback episode.
Yeah, lovely.
So
I enjoyed every minute of it, apart from when the camera got out. I didn't enjoy that bit.
Yeah, we didn't enjoy that.
So the microphone's gone through, so
yeah.
it's also cut out again.
Has it?
Yeah.
Because it will be on 10%. I've only just done that.
I hope so. Notice how I charge your phone.
So let's summarise what we've talked about.
So, on today's episode, we've talked about an update of what's been going on and what we've been working on and how we've been working so hard. We talked about the differences between being a small business and how we're transitioning into a proper, fully formed company with processes, procedures, and all of the above. What else have we talked about?
We've talked about how we're distinguishing ourselves from the corporate players. We've talked about the policies and structures that, we've had to bring in to transition from a small company to I need to look over. My short-term memory is actually horrendous. Anyways, we talked about success, but in a different realm than we did before.
Yeah.
We talked about the stigma around success in quotation marks, and the stigma around getting to that level, entrepreneurship, and how people's views of entrepreneurship have changed over the last couple of years. And then we had some great questions.
Yeah.
It's been a great episode.
Stay tuned. More questions.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in at some point in the future.
Indeterminate.
Undefined period of time in the future for another podcast. But I hope you've enjoyed this one today. Sign us out.
Peace out. People love us.
I kind of threw you under the bus.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.